What's up, gamers? Today we're going to go over some updates for 7 games soon to be released. First one I want to talk about is a collaboration between EA and Koei Tecmo. So let's look at the write-up here from Games Radar. Let me just switch the banner. Okay, so a couple of outlets had hands-on with the game. And if you don't know, it's pretty much a Monster Hunter clone, or the best form of flattery imitation. And from, let's see, Games Radar's write-up here, the developers at Koei Tecmo themselves aren't fazed by that comparison, and in fact they find it an honor when they were speaking with Games Radar directly. A couple of details. So just like in Monster Hunter, the business of tracking down the creatures themselves is half the battle. They're called katakuri, by which you can create a number of items. So this is what the items are called. I think the beasts are called like kimono, almost like kimono. And as far as the items you can create, which is like a big difference between Monster Hunter and this new game here, Wild Hearts, you might be able to create something like a campfire, and that would allow you to eat meals, providing you with statistical bonuses, or watchtowers so you can just track down the kimono, the monsters. And speaking about the monsters, you can see here, although they look similar, there is a visual difference between Monster Hunter and this game, Wild Hearts here. These look more like mythical or fantastical creatures, where Monster Hunter kind of goes for like a mix of a couple of different things that we are more familiar with. This looks like, was it Amaterasu, or was it the Okami dog? It's kind of like an evil Soulsborne remake of that. Looks very cool though. And then reading a bit further here, they're talking about the combat having a rapid flow where players chain together quick attacks with swords, bows, mauls, a variety of different weapons, even massive umbrellas. And there is a stamina system, it looks like. I think all that is kind of in line with what Monster Hunter does. They mention that you have to think about whether you've got enough left in the tank as far as stamina to make like the last attack, or to dodge if you need to. So there is a bit of conscious effort. And the weapons themselves, you have a good amount to choose from, apparently. So talking more about the combat, the items, the katakuri, are rigged for battle, so you can construct walls to block charging kimono, for example, or you can use a springboard to help you dive in and out of the way during battle. And there's no hard limit to the amount of these items that you can place to help you. So that enables plenty of room for experimentation on the battlefield. Looks like we're still talking about combat. They have quite the write-up here, so go check them out if you want some more details. So the act of constructing the kimono, I think they mean the katakuri here. I think that's a typo. But they mentioned that it's very simple to construct these items. Any concerns about the katakuri being a nuisance to build in the heat of battle are wiped away by the device's menu being routed to the left bumper on a controller. So it's like a skill, essentially. It's not something that you have to like go into your menu to sift through different options. You'll probably be able to map, I would assume, about 4, maybe more, for quick access. They mentioned here at the end of the preview that there were some technical troubles, but it is a preview. They do have like, let's see, like 5 months before the game comes out. and they don't know how old this build of the game is. Some closing thoughts that they highlight is the combat feels like a retuned version of Dynasty Warriors hack and slash with more deliberate pacing, which I'm actually a big Dynasty Warriors fan. So that sounds really good to me. If you don't know, Dynasty Warriors usually has a very simple combo system that is rooted off of like one square, and then including another button, triangle for instance. And then they'll be adding the skills, or the weapons I should say, to that. So yeah, it sounds like there'll be lots of variation there, lots of room to have fun. The Kemono, which are the monsters themselves, are described as charmingly horrific blend of animals and nature. I would agree. And then the items, the Katakuri, are an inspired, original direction, bringing in possible variations. I think the variation is the cool part about all that. Sounds like you'll be able to mix and match play styles with different weapons and the Katakuri. And there are other previews other than Games Radar. This is just the one I pulled up. You can go on YouTube, for instance, and I think like Skill Up has a video preview about it. And there's also, I think directly from the publisher about, oh yeah, here we go. Here's some of the monster fights it looks like. Or just some different outlets that had time with it, I guess. Got Easy Allies, GameSpot. So yeah, go check them out if you want some different opinions, different takes on it. But basically, it looks like a good time. And without comparing it to Monster Hunter, I'd say I like the idea of a small or regular sized person fighting giant monsters in like an open world area with a variety of different weapons and I guess buildable items for tactics that you can bring out on the field. That sounds really cool. So let's see, moving on to the next story here. Let's just close that out. I said close that out. Alright, so we also had previews released for Gotham Knights. So I'm reading from the Game Informer website here. I do believe there are other influencers as well that got a hold of this hands-on preview. The main thing that I took away is that you can't help but draw comparisons with the old Arkham games, which I actually never played. But from pretty much everyone who's played both now, it seems that the combat feels very different. The main focus is in Gotham Knights, this new game. It feels less snappy than the rapid-paced combo-driven rhythm of the Arkham games in the past, mainly due to the elaborate animations accompanying each assault. So it's more like you're performing automatic combos that you can't escape from, it looks like. Holding down the melee or ranged button unleashes more powerful variations of each assault. So yeah, that kind of lines up with what I was thinking. And I did skim through this, so I just highlighted the important parts that I thought were standout. They mention co-op, of course, makes the game more enjoyable. And it's important to note that you can actually explore the city separately outside of the story missions. I'm assuming they mean like two people can join the game and explore the city as long as they're not in a mission. You can be on the same like server, the same world, but exploring without limitations, like you're not bound to the other player. Important to note because of the co-op that Gotham Knights only supports 2-player co-op despite having 4 protagonists, and that they've changed or customized important cutscenes to have 4 variations depending on who you're playing as. But it's pretty much going to be the same story. They mention you'll get the full story in one playthrough, so it's probably just minor inconsequential differences between the characters, just like flavor, text, or dialogue. There's a lot of information here, but I think that was the main takeaway. They didn't have time to go with to look into the leveling up, the minute leveling up systems for like the item drops, because you do get a lot of drops like your typical like Destiny or Avengers kind of game. So no word on how tedious that can be or how impactful level ups are. And I think they do have separate level up trees. But go read some previews or go watch some previews to get more information on that. Let's move on to the next game here. So we have... Ow. Let me get that back. So we have some more details on Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. Let me just update this here. Accompanying some trailers as well. Now, this one is a 15-minute trailer that goes over all this information. I don't think anyone got a specific preview or hands-on with it. Some of the big takeaways are there's a profile application where you can see what you've achieved during your adventure, such as how many badges you gathered and how far along with completing the Pokedex, and even the number of sandwich recipes you've discovered. It sounds like an app that connects to your Pokedex. So they're like modernizing the Pokedex. And apparently there's some customization. You can try making a profile that's unique to you. Some of the bigger, more gameplay focused things, it seems like the biggest standout from this preview anyways, is that you can make custom TMs with resources that you find while exploring the world. TMs are technical machines, TMs for short, which I've played a little bit of Pokemon, but I didn't necessarily remember that. The last time I played Pokemon was like, I think Ruby, and I completed that, and I played Silver before. I skipped Arceus, but I am looking forward to Scarlet or Violet actually. Just because I knew when Arceus came out, it looked like the demo version of something else that was about to be released, and sure enough, Scarlet and Violet looked like the more complete form of whatever Arceus was trying to be. But back onto this preview here, they talk about the TMs allowing Pokemon to learn new moves, so you can create them specifically, and then you can choose which Pokemon will learn them rather than just whatever list that is available to that specific Pokemon. And in these titles, there is a piece of equipment installed at every Pokemon Center called a TM machine, which allows trainers to make their own TMs. Back to the picnics and the sandwiches information here. You can have picnics almost anywhere when out exploring the region's vast wilderness. Picnics allow you to spend leisure time with your Pokemon, and you can change the designs of the tablecloth, cups, water bottles, and other picnic items to create an arrangement of your liking. I like the sound of that. It reminds me of how mobile games now have little decorative mini games in them, and I can spend a lot of time doing something like that alone. I think what they're saying here is that this will have an impact on maybe your sandwich making, or like the happiness, the bond level of your Pokemon. If you look here, they say if you don't balance, or this is specifically when making sandwiches, I guess. So you can make sandwiches, and if you don't balance them properly, you might accidentally cause your ingredients to topple over or fall off the bread entirely. When your Pokemon eat sandwiches, not only will their HP be restored, but the meal may impart some effects that will come in handy on your adventures. So yeah, they are like stat buffs, and it seems like you can fail with at least making the sandwiches properly. You can become friends, so there's like a bonding mechanic. I'm not sure if that was always in the game. I don't really remember it being like a prominent feature of the older games that I played, but in this one, during your during a picnic, your Pokemon will spend their time as they please, and you can speak to your Pokemon one-on-one or use toys to play with them. That's kind of cute. And of course, it seems like that will strengthen your bonds here, and also give you a chance to find a Pokemon egg, which I don't know if that's the only way to get Pokemon eggs, and if that is influenced at all by like which Pokemon you have on the picnic with you. Moving on, you can give your Pokemon a good scrub, so you can give them a bath, and by washing your Pokemon at a picnic, not only will they get clean, but their HP will be restored and their bond with you will become stronger, of course. The picnic is all about building up those bonds with your Pokemon. And then you can also have picnics with your friends. It looks like you can enjoy picnics with friends while playing together through the Union Circle, which seems to be a specific like multiplayer hub. And then in this preview, they also introduced Fari Giraffe, a new variant or a new evolution to this giraffe Pokemon I never knew about. They go over some of the details here. This is a write-up by Gamatsu, so there's a lot of details that I skipped over here, but that's pretty much the gist of it. And then there's the full trailer you can go check out in English or Japanese. Let's move on to the next one. You got a peek of this earlier with the misclick, but not as much of a preview as just a trailer. The first actual gameplay trailer for the Dead Space remake came out, and it looks very good. Not really much else to say. I think we can maybe skim through it a bit here real quick. Let's see. So if you never played the original Dead Space, this is definitely something I would say put on your watch list. Almost a must-buy. It's about a month and a half or two removed from where Callisto Protocol is going to be released in December. So that should give enough time to enjoy both of the games, but maybe wait until the remake or Callisto Protocol drops in price, or both. But they're both looking like really good games in this kind of action survival horror space, which has been severely underserved for a while.
Fix the centrifuge. Get the fuel running.
So you can tell they put a lot of extra effects in the lighting and the fog, sound effects.
We need help.
Like, if I didn't know that this was a game that came out during the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 era, I would just think this is a brand new game. And granted, Callisto Protocol looks very similar. It is made, and it's made by a more like AA or indie team. It's a newly formed team. So you could say maybe Resident Evil even hasn't done a game like this in a while, which is what Dead Space was originally inspired from. Resident Evil 4.
It's me.
That might have been too loud.
I can't believe what's happening.
Nicole?
That is definitely something to get hyped about. The graphics look amazing, which creates a good atmosphere. That's one of the main draws of these kind of games. So definitely put this on your list for January 27th is this release date, and then I'd say Callisto Protocol as well. I don't have anything pulled up for that, but it's very similar and looks very good. Let's see. Moving on to the next preview here, just some small news. We have God of War going gold. So no, I think it also removed that. 1 second. Yep. The delay is killing me. So God of War has gone gold. Basically, that means that they've done they have the game finished enough to mass produce it for physical copies anyways, because there's sure to be a day one or like week one patch that does a lot of stuff, but for the most part the game is complete where they feel they can send it out to the public. Just some highlights from, I believe, yeah, Sony Interactive Entertainment. So you should be able to find this probably on the about section of the store for the game. It's noted here, just some hype lines. Kratos and Atreus must journey to each of the 9 realms in search of answers as they prepare for the prophesied battle that will end the world. Very exciting stuff. And they note here, addressing some of the concerns or some of the rooms for improvement people noted from the first game, is there's a lot of exploring stunning mythical landscapes, gathering allies from across the realms, and face fearsome enemies in the form of Norse gods and monsters. I think the main complaint was the enemy variety and the location variety not really being there. Of course, the fast travel was kind of slow. Apparently, I didn't really feel that when I played it, but it was over 5 years now, I believe, since I played the original. I only played it when it came out, and then just highlighting some of the key features again. Explore the realm, journey to dangerous and stunning landscapes while facing a wide variety of enemy creatures, monsters, and Norse gods. It is coming out on the PlayStation 5 and 4 on November 9th. It doesn't really look like the PlayStation 4 is holding it back. I think it was probably originally designed for the PlayStation 4 with some PlayStation 5 features in mind, but I don't think we've seen anything truly next gen yet, even 2 years into this console's life cycle. God of War is probably going to look as good as anything that was developed solely for the PlayStation 5 or the Xbox Series X and S to date. So yeah, another positive note is that this should be the end of the Norse anthology or the Norse stories for God of War. There's not going to be a God of War Norse another game in the Norse setting anyway, so everything should wrap up nicely. The first one also had a good, like, solid kind of chapter ending where it felt satisfying without spoiling anything. It felt satisfying where it ended, but you knew there was a lot of mysteries, a lot of questions left unanswered. So, really looking forward to this. Probably going to be a day one purchase for me on November 9th. And once again, this is coming from Gematsu, at least the main sourcing of it. And then also, of course, Sony Entertainment. So go check them out. All right, next story. This one is kind of just for my personal interest here. We had some information drop on October the 5th from, I believe, Square Enix's Twitter account or something like that. Some more details on the upcoming Tactics Ogre Reborn remaster or remake. So they go over what's gonna make the game look and feel different. If you look at the screenshots here, if I can get them to load up, where's a good picture of it? Here we go. So if we look at the screenshots, you wouldn't think this has been remastered, but when you go back and look at the old original, the original looks very grainy. It was originally for the PlayStation 1, and I think they remade it for the PSP. And if there were any visual improvements, it was nothing like what we're seeing here. Everything here looks like they kept the original like concept and sprites, but they've made everything crisp and clear, clean. Looks really nice in my opinion. And I believe they even kept some of the artwork, the original artwork. So we'll look at that later, but let's go over some of the features that they discussed in this update here. So the main thing that they want to emphasize is that they've simplified and reimagine the unit development, or it sounds like really just the whole upgrade or game experience. So first, they're talking about new equipment requirements, improve usability. In Tactics Ogre Let Us Cling Together, there were requirements for using equipment such as weapons and armor, consumables such as HP, recovery items, and magic. And these were limited by, I believe, like you couldn't even use certain healing items without the correct stats, is what they're saying. But in this Reborn, you can equip and use anything as soon as you find it. However, there are still some certain class restrictions for equipment and magic. For example, a knight cannot equip a bow, and a cleric cannot equip attack spells, and so on. And then they do have some examples, which I think, unless you played the original recently, you wouldn't be able to spot them out right away. So we're just going to skip over those. They mention here skill rules have been revamped, making strategizing more fun. So they went in and did like a full skill overhaul for the most part. They've also added new skills and returned and retuned the effects of others to further broaden the range of possible strategies while maintaining the unique feel for each class. For example, if you attack an enemy standing between your own units, the new pincer attack skill will trigger, causing an ally behind the enemy to make an additional attack. Now, I don't remember this not being a feature, honestly. There was probably a game, because I love strategy role-playing games. There was probably a game that did this, and I can't remember which it was. I finished Final Fantasy Tactics all the way through, and I played a good amount of Tactics Ogre. I couldn't finish it, though, because the leveling seemed a little slow. And I think that's something that they talk about addressing here, actually. They also mention that finishing moves, ninjutsu, and war dances have been updated, mainly from the original. Those finishing moves and other things that they mentioned required the accumulation and use of technical points, and sometimes certain regents as well. Now, all these abilities simply require magic points or MP, just like magic, so it makes things a little less confusing, and it makes it more clear what each unit is capable of doing, anyways. So I like that change, but once again, that's something I think I played Tactics Ogre maybe 3 years ago. It was pretty recent, but I still don't remember even spotting the difference between those. I think I definitely had a ninja, but yeah, I don't recall the technical point limitations. But it has been a while. So a new item is charms. Charms let you develop a unit's stats the way you want. And some of the effects that they have listed here, you can raise a unit's level by 1, grant experience points, permanently increase stats such as strength or agility, and I think the biggest one they list here is change a unit's element to another element, like from air to holy. And this is something that I do remember, actually. So I think one of the first like Valkyrie classes I had, or I should just say like some of the first classes that you get are locked into a limited number of elements. And if you want them to be, you get stat buffs, I should say, when using magic from that element on that character. And if you want to like min-max how a character's damage or what type of like elemental specialization that you want them to go into, then their innate element plays a big role in that. And being able to customize it, I think, is a pretty big deal. It may be more on the min-max side of things, but I think that's what these kind of games are all about. So charms allow you to customize your units exactly how you want them without having to spend time grinding levels. You will still have to grind levels, rest assured. But yeah, it looks like this will make the specific min-maxing a whole lot more fun. And you can probably get any character exactly how you want. So like the main character, for instance, probably has some starting element, and if you want to be a certain class, then that might limit your range. If you wanted to stick with playing certain main like story characters. So I know a lot of people like, the main story characters, but if you are stuck with an element, you might not be able to form the correct kind of party that you would need to get through the game or have a balanced party. So onto the battle party screen features, they've enabled a scout command which allows you to gather information on the enemy before entering battle, which again sounds like something that should have been there from the beginning, and I don't remember it not. But I do remember having some frustration. So that this probably would have helped a lot. But I think they did another thing here that they're going to mention that kind of would make that a moot issue. So they also mentioned you can now save up to 5 different battle parties, which is very cool, very much a time saver for convenience here. They have, so this is something I do remember. We'll just go over this quickly. The buff cards. They mention it here like they did a rework, but I remember them in the original game. So you can pick up these cards that appear on the battlefield that the enemies can also get, that can give you buffs, help you out. They mention here that they're not permanent somewhere, which I don't remember if in the original they were permanent or not. They also note that they've made improvements to the AI so that the battles never get old. We'll just have to see about that. And you get additional rewards for completing bonus objectives. That sounds very fun. Maybe a little bit tedious depending on what the kind of requirements are here. When with an archer in the battle party, perform an attack that strikes multiple tiles, obtain a buff card. And then they have the bonuses listed here. So yeah, that sounds pretty fair. And it's not necessary. The question I would have is if it's only for story missions or if it's for like the grindy type missions that you can select. And they implemented a friendly AI system. If that wasn't in the original, it looks like they have auto battle essentially with the improved AI also affecting your units. So you might not unnecessarily lose units just because the AI was too dumb to figure out the opponent's danger ranges or attack ranges. So this is big in my opinion. Trajectory prediction eliminates costly mistakes. Essentially, any kind of firing weapon like bows or crossbows or even some spells that launch projectiles now give you a prediction shot here. So this wasn't in the original, and it was kind of just trial and error when you first start the game, until eventually you failed enough shots where you learned, oh, I can't do that because it's going to fail and I'm going to take a lot of damage or something. So yeah, now they let you know with this line of sight essentially. So that's very helpful. And let's see, they talk about reviving incapacitated units, which I don't think is any. I don't think there's anything that's changed really from here, but I could be wrong. And then, yeah, this is the thing I think would help with how grindy the game felt before. Instead of random battles that you have to walk across the map for, now you can just go to training. It looks like they took away the random encounters entirely, and now you just go to a town, it looks like, or a spot, and you can train on that. So I would assume they have randomized unit placements. If not, then yeah, the battles might get very repetitive. And also, I wonder if training battles would give you the bonus rewards. I would hope so. That would be a good way to get like those charms, maybe. So other just general balance adjustments. Let's see here. So I think shops is the next big thing that they talk about. The change here is crafting success rate is 100%, which I don't remember crafting a lot, but that's probably why I had a hard time. Maybe the bonuses would help with getting materials too, and maybe after I failed a couple of times, I didn't want to craft anything. So the fact that it's now 100% would definitely encourage me to craft more things if I didn't in the past anyways. And then they have a different leveling up system, I think, which I don't remember if this was a requirement, but in the old one anyways, but in the new one, in the remake here, it looks like a class mark, which can be obtained from shops and through battles, is required to change classes now. So rather than just leveling up a class like I think you do in Final Fantasy Tactics, where you level up a certain class to unlock other classes, here you'll need a class mark, which is something like an emblem from Fire Emblem to level up your units now, or to change classes for your units, I should say. And then here we just have some art for the classes here. Looks very nice. Very cleaned up. You don't have the pixelated edges. And from what I can tell, it looks the same as the original. Square Enix is known to censor some of their older games, and judging by some of the artwork, I'm gonna say that might not be the case. Like, I don't think they really have a problem with hips here showing. Looks very tasteful. We have some nice barbarian art here. It all looks very faithful to the original. Looks like they really had some people that liked or that loved the original remaking this to keep it true to that original vision and to the fans. The art looks great. If you're just looking at the character portraits from here too, you can see they're very crisp. And the ninja. I think that was the last class I remember unlocking, probably. And this is just a relation tree, which serves you no good if you haven't played it, but or maybe if you just want to kind of get a brief overview of what you'll be getting into, because yeah, there's a lot of characters I do remember, and that there's branching paths to the story. But yeah, this also is from Gameatsu, so if you want to look at more of the art in detail and some of the more battle oriented details that I skipped over, go check them out here at Gameatsu. Moving on over to Game Informer. They have the exclusive cover story for Bayonetta 3. So I have not played any Bayonetta game, mainly because I didn't own Nintendo hardware. I do now. I don't know if I'll be playing this new one, just because I've played Devil May Cry 4 and 5. Really, I played all the Devil May Cries. It looks very similar, and if I was gonna play any Bayonetta, it would probably be the first one. I'd start with the first one and then go to the second one, and then depending on the reviews, I might check out this third one. From the Game Informer cover story, though, they seem pretty positive, so let's go over some of the things they're talking about here. The core of Bayonetta 3's combat remains the same. That's the main thing that they want to talk about in the beginning before getting into some of the new stuff. So, new stuff they talk about is equipping these demonic arms alters Bayonetta's combat style and also influences her beast within transformation. For example, one demon turns Bayonetta into a bestial version of herself capable of leaping long distances and shredding foes to ribbons with her claws. So she's like a assassin type melee DPS character rather than the gun witch here. And then there's Demon Slave, which serves as an evolution or replacement of the climax summons. Summoning your demonic partner gives you direct control of them, and you'll be able to do unique things with whatever demon you summon, I guess. And another feature that they have listed is Bayonetta 3 features larger, more interactive levels with environmental puzzles and secrets. Some of these obstacles can be overcome by tapping into your demonic abilities. So I think they're talking about, I don't know if you have access to all of your demons at a given time, or if you have to choose which go out on whichever specific level. so that might encourage replayability, but it seems like they're adding a bit of a Metroidvania kind of reason to go back to prior levels, maybe, to unlock the rest of the level. And yeah, me not having played any of them, I can't give you too much insight into the changes made. So go check out the Game Informer cover story. I think they have a nice video here. How long is it? Seems like about 4 minutes for just new features. One of them that they have on a separate page here, and this I think is the biggest reason why I'm not really excited for this new Bayonetta, is the new character here. It says meet Viola, the second protagonist. And it does seem like you'll be playing as her a lot, as they talk about her having her own skill tree, like fully upgradable on par with Bayonetta's, and her main difference is she's slower and has less of a variety. She's can do more damage essentially. But but yeah, this right here doesn't inspire a lot of enthusiasm to me. That's just not what floats my boat. Does not get me going. So yeah, that's one of the reasons I'm not really looking forward to this new Bayonetta. It looks like they changed quite a number of things, not just from the gameplay, but from the theme of the game itself. But yeah, we'll just have to wait and see when the full game comes out. Once again, this information here is all from Game Informer. They have the exclusive cover story for it. So next game I want to talk about is Undecember, a Diablo-like, what is it? CRPG, ARPG. Let me just update this here. So this is by Video Games Chronicle. They seem pretty excited about it. It looks like a higher res Diablo 2 or maybe Lost Ark would also be comparable to this. It is a free to play game, and let's just get into some of the article here. So Undecember has been a huge hit in South Korea, and now the action RPG is headed to the West. The game is a hack and slash ARPG in the style of the Diablo series, but with a larger focus on unique and varied combat and an overwhelming number of enemies to take down. At launch, the game has a huge amount of content for players to explore. There are 10 acts, and I'm assuming that will be updated. I don't know. They don't mention here how many are in the Korean version, if the release in America is going to be up to date or if there's going to be a bit of a difference between the two as far as content. And they emphasize that bosses in Undecember are varied, unique, and always offer something new. They talk about the patterns being unique and that you have to anticipate them. I don't think that's really new to this genre of game. Like, I think Path of Exile is an easy comparison, although I do think this looks noticeably better than Path of Exile. And they talk about the number of enemies being a pretty large number of enemies on screen at a given time. That's as one of the differentiating factors. Undecember is also multi-platform, meaning the full PC experience is going to be available on iOS and Android. You'll probably have to have a pretty modern device to do that. And the game supports gamepads on those devices, so you should still be able to play with a controller, which I think is essential if you're talking about mobile gaming. You don't want to play these kind of games, any kind of action-focused game with a touch screen. And let's go over to some of the reviews here, because this is actually just released today, October the 12th. And it is a free-to-play game, so I think it's important to note that seems to be one of the bigger concerns. It's rated mostly negative at the moment, but when you look through it, it looks like it's the cash shop in particular. They mention that the microtransactions seem very comparable to Path of Exile, so probably cosmetics, and then you have like a crafting system to upgrade your items that is probably tied to rare drops and such that you can probably purchase. This guy here was pretty positive. And if we go down to microtransactions here, they seem to be mostly similar to Path of Exile, Lost Ark, or Elder Scrolls Online. Not really much in the way of pay to win, but more so in the way of convenience. So buying more bag slots, special tabs for modifiers, cards, etc. I think one person mentioned that the pets cost money, which pets allow you to sell your loot automatically to town. Just once again, a more convenience focused thing, but it doesn't seem as egregious as Diablo Immortal, for instance, which I've seen some people make comparisons to somewhere here in these reviews. It is out today. It is free to play, so if you have the option to, if you're curious at all for these kind of games, I would say give it a look, give it a shot. And that is going to conclude the games I wanted to look over today, the updated games. There are some more I can go over, but we might save that for another video. And then gaming news in general, just like game industry news, I was going to do a separate video on, but let me know in the comments if you're curious to have that in one kind of longer form video, if you like the idea of having gaming specific updates for the games themselves as one video, and then game related news in another video separate. Once again, thanks for watching Game X Affinity. So don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And thanks for watching.